Well, hello everyone out there. This is the Head Couch Analyst Show where the birds love to flock and the couch analysts love to be wrong and they think they're right. I'm your host, Sanders, and today I've got a little something special for you guys. I'm going to be talking about some week one picks, going to be talking about the Cardinals Chiefs here, going to be talking about the Lamar Jackson situation, and I want to let you guys know that none of this was my idea because I would not be talking about Lamar Jackson this week because I think it's a bit of a non-factor. But we got the band back together, and we got Mr. Pardue back with us. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man, and it feels good to be back. It's been a long time. I know I had a couple people ask like, "Hey, like what happened to the show?" And I kind of just told them I was like, "Look, last year I got burnt out on football between doing the podcast, setting fantasy lineups, talking about it all day at work and just so much football and it was just like, all right, I'm getting a little burnt out." And with the way the Cardinals season ended last year, like super demoralizing, I was like, all right, I need to take a break. So but no, after this last week, I was itching to at least come on and talk about it. And I wouldn't mind coming back a couple more times, but I work like Wednesdays every other week, so the time's sparse. But it'll be fun to come back every now and then.
Yeah, so pretty much what's happening, what I told you guys before, is that the content for Hedge Accounts Analyst is going to be much shorter, more like consumable in pieces, kind of like the 14-minute video I put out for the season one predictions. Then I also put out a week one predictions out as well. So like, it'll be more smaller content for people to consume. I've noticed that like I'm already getting like 40 viewers on average with that, whereas like with old episodes it was like 15 to 20, or like when we were doing our downloads on Spotify it was usually around like the 20 to 30 mark. So the fact that like I think more
Right.
people are clicking on it because it's shorter, so I'm trying to stay
Yeah,
with
it's
I'm
more
trying
consumable that way.
yeah, I'm trying to consume it that way. I'm not trying to make it so podcasty anymore as much as it is like a show segments kind of deal. It's just I'm not doing a show segment in 2 hours, right? I'm
Yeah.
doing segments here and there across the week. Like I have things planned, like I want to do this week and I want to do this week, so I need to make two videos on two separate days, but it's still like 40 minutes of content just split up into like 15 and 20 minutes of video each or whatever. So
Right. And I think that's the way to do it, especially when you're trying to create an audience on Twitter. It's just easier to reach people that way, and especially with shorter content.
yeah, but
Not everyone wants to sit through an hour and a half podcast.
But
So
just like how with Jackie and Mac when I had them on last week, that was about an hour and a half. I anticipate this one's
yeah.
about an hour, so you guys are gonna get a ton of Pardue. So let's roll on with what we want to talk about here. We had a segment last year called Bird Watching, right, where we talked about the Ravens and we talked about the Cardinals. It wasn't a segment that I planned on like keeping around much this year, but Pardue wanted to do it, and I was like, heck yeah, man, sounds good. I don't mind talking about my team. And I certainly don't mind talking about the Cardinals. However, it's probably going to be a little more negative if you've been following Pardue on Twitter the last few days.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty this week. I'm gonna get more into it once we talk about the Cardinals and bird watching. I figure we start with the Ravens. Let's start with something happy.
Yeah, sure, why not?
But
So, what you got for me
um,
on Baltimore, man?
yeah. So first thing I wanted to say is props to Lamar. I think given his whole contract situation right now, for him to go out and play like that against week one in week one, with poor surrounding talent. And I'm not saying like the Ravens have a bad offense. If DuVernay can show out and Rashad Bateman continues to develop, you still have Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. But let's not pretend like this is supposed to be a passing offense. It is a run first offense, but your running backs were unavailable and god awful on Sunday. So I think with Lamar, you got to take into consideration that he wasn't facing just scrub secondary either. Like Sauce Gardner, he's proving to be living up to the hype. He's been really, really good all through preseason, and he had a good first NFL start. I don't remember the name. I keep forgetting of the defensive back that ended up getting the interception, but I believe he was only targeted twice. I don't think he allowed a completion, so it's not like Lamar was facing a scrub secondary, and all three of his touchdowns were above 20 yards. Can you confirm that?
Yes, so one was 26, one was 20, and one was 55, and I was very annoying about it on
Yeah.
Twitter because
Yeah.
we're 5 years in, and I'm tired of this Lamar can't throw past the 10-yard line kind of deal. Like I know like the last 2 years I told you it doesn't phase me anymore. Like after the MVP season, I'm like I don't care. But out in the fifth year, it
Right.
kind of bothers me again. I'm just like He's clearly the franchise guy. Contract signed or not right now, it doesn't matter to me. It's gonna get done.
Hmm.
I'm just sitting here like I don't think this man can do anymore without just like having haters. And honestly, the only person who's comparable is like Tom Brady. But I think that's just
Right.
Tom Brady wins all the time, right? And speaking of him, he looked really good on Sunday night too. Like, yeah, they didn't score touchdowns, but like they were,
45 throwing lasers,
yeah, but they were,
dude.
yeah, but they were still like moving the ball. So like, I
Hmm.
think that's the only guy compared to, not winning wise, but like for a guy who like has done everything in his power and still gets hate, right? Lamar and like Tom Brady are similar in that. Peyton Manning had his haters too, but I don't think it was
Yeah.
as huge, right? And Brett Favre had his knocks because he was a gunslinger, right? I think every gunslinger is gonna have that, right? If you're a guy who throws a ton of touchdowns, a ton of interceptions, that's just the way you roll and how it is. And like Patrick Mahomes is kind of like similar in that sense too. The amount of like Patrick Mahomes hate that happened this summer too, insane. I
Hmm.
don't get it. It's ridiculous. The fact that a defensive coordinator came out and said, yeah, he's not S tier quarterback, he's just an A tier quarterback. I wanted to tweet a joke, but I didn't want to hurt my Cardinals followers. But in the middle of the game, I wanted to tweet out Vance Joseph was the defensive coordinator who said Mahomes was the A tier quarterback and not S. It just drives me insane. Anyways, yeah. What were you saying about like Lamar?
So I just wanted to say, like we saw, given his contract situation, for him to go out in week one like that and play the way he did, with no running backs, like I said, with maybe not the best receivers. Obviously, you guys have been clamoring for a true number one receiver for God knows how long now. Um, but he threw those, obviously those three deep touchdown passes. He looked really good. He was on my fantasy team, so I'm happy about it. But the last thing I wanted to get into about Lamar and the Ravens' future is I know you're comfortable with the situation, but maybe not everybody else is. I've seen some Ravens fans kind of freaking out about it a little bit on Twitter, but I think it all in the end it'll get done. But do you think he ends up playing on the franchise tag next year? Because I'm not confident. So because like we were talking before we started recording, I was talking about this with a coworker last night. Is the NFLPA told Lamar to ask for a fully guaranteed contract, and that's just it's not going to happen. And it is so. And you know what the Ravens front office probably said to Lamar? They told him, "Look, Lamar, we get it. Deshaun Watson got a fully guaranteed contract. We get that you want that, but the Browns are stupid. You're not getting a fully guaranteed contract." That's literally probably how the conversation went. Do you think I'm wrong? I mean,
I
I
mean, if you read the Adam Schefter report, right? And it wasn't just Adam Schefter; it was Adam Schefter and somebody else who was co-written together. But if you read that report like I did, which is where I found out the NFLP, like as soon as I read that, I like closed the article. I didn't even
yeah.
read the rest of it. I had to like fume for it for a few minutes and then go back, right? Because I thought it was just him demanding it and him just being a player representing himself. I didn't realize somebody was in his ear telling him, "Yo, dude, you should do this," right? And
Now look,
if you're from the NFLPA's perspective, let's take it from their perspective, right? The
right. That's what I wanted to
NFLPA
say.
is an organization that represents the players, and like it or not, they're going to represent Deshaun Watson too,
Mhm.
right? So here's probably what their thought process was. If an owner is willing to give a fully guaranteed contract that
Yep.
has a guy with such questionable things surrounding him, right?
Yep.
I've talked about it on the show. Pardue talked about it last year. We don't need to go about it again, right? We're just going to say what AC has questionable things around him, right, and leave it at that. I think the NFLPA said if that guy can get a fully guaranteed 230 million, someone like Lamar
Exactly.
Jackson, who is contributing to his community, writing children's books. I don't know if you know this. He's written 2 children's
Yeah.
books already,
Yep. Yep.
right?
No, I saw.
And even just
He
this
literally the
morning,
day after on Monday morning he went to an elementary school and was reading them.
yes, yes, I was literally I
Compare that to
retweeted that
Deshaun Watson.
stuff. Yeah, right.
Compare that to Deshaun Watson.
Exactly, and I think the NFLPA is saying for a guy who's so involved in his community, right, has purple wings tattooed on his chest, and has said
Mhm.
repeatedly, I'm going to stay in Baltimore no matter what, right? I think the NFLPA says that guy is probably one of the more. I don't see him as humble with his contract situation, but in general, he has acted humble across the board and so beneficial to the community. They're probably saying this guy should be the guy to earn that fully guaranteed contract, so every other player
Mhm.
after him can. I think the NFLPA is trying
Right.
to push this. If Lamar can't do it, then like somebody like Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert's not going to be able to do it, right? So I
until they
think
do.
I think the NFLPA is trying to get a win for all players in the future, and Lamar's like their coin,
Exactly.
right? And I'm
Yeah.
not saying he's being used, right? Because obviously Lamar's thinking if I can get that, that's great, right? If you're
Hmm.
him, that's what you want too. But I kind of see it from the subjective standpoint from the office, where the office gave more guaranteed money than Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson off of like signing a bonus, right? They were willing to give 133. It was less total guaranteed than Kyler Murray's because Kyler Murray's was 160, I believe.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's was 180, and I believe Lamar's was 150. But they were willing to give him 133 right off the bat on signing, which is more than Murray
Hmm.
and Wilson had. So I think they were trying to sell him. Here's more up front, right? But it won't. But you won't have that later. And I believe it was a $210 million deal, something like that. But
Yeah.
the point is that, rumor or not, apparently it was because it wasn't fully guaranteed. I don't know what's going to happen next offseason. I feel like the reality of what's going to happen is either they're going to go back to these talks and they're not going to agree, and it's going to be what you said. He'll be on the franchise tag. And this guy is so dedicated to this team, I firmly believe he'd pay on the franchise tag because the franchise tag is going to be like 48 million. So like
Yeah.
he has no reason not to play on it if like money is a concern, right? He could easily go the Kirk Cousins route the next couple of years. Like, and I
The only
don't
thing
mind that.
you're the only thing you're worried about with the franchise tag though is injury, obviously. And you'd
But that
hate to
would be
see that
signing a
happen
long
tomorrow.
term too, right? I could argue that for long term.
Right. You're right. You're not wrong. And um I think ultimately, I think bottom line, I think he will get franchise tagged because I don't think the Ravens are going to budge. I would be shocked if they did and gave him a fully guaranteed contract. I really
I'd be
would.
shocked if they did too. I don't like the
It,
Broncos didn't budge, the Cardinals didn't budge, right? Like why should Baltimore
yeah,
budge?
I'm willing to bet it will happen soon. The next big quarterback will probably get a fully guaranteed contract in the offseason, but it's not going to be Lamar. And there's going to be people freaking out about it when the next person does it, and it's gonna happen soon. It's gonna eventually get to that all contracts should be fully guaranteed. I think it's just gonna be that way. Ultimately, I think the Ravens, as long as they can stay healthy this year, they're gonna have a really good season. They need to get their running backs back because that running game is deadly, and I need Lamar Jackson to put up more fantasy points. So
I have a question for you. Now that you said that, you said the next big quarterback again, it wouldn't be Lamar. So here's my question: what makes you justify in your head that it would be Joe Burrow, or Justin Herbert? Because those would be the next two guys in line.
I'm just
I don't think either of those guys would get it.
I'm not I'm not necessarily saying that it's going to be them. But I'm
But
just
they're the
saying with the
extensions that are going to get signed next year.
right, right,
Maybe, maybe,
and
maybe.
maybe right. Maybe I'm wrong, but with the progressive nature of the NFL and with the way players are clamoring for this, it's going to be coming, whether it's this offseason or next offseason or whenever. More likely than not, guaranteed contracts are coming. I see it coming.
I kind
So,
of wish it had gone like the Kirk Cousins route because I remember when Kirk Cousins got his contract, it was fully guaranteed, right? But it was like
mm,
significantly less than top tier quarterbacks. Like Kirk Cousins
right.
settled for, I will get every single dollar that I sign up for, right? But I will take less. And I think at the time it was like 30 million a year when the highest at the time was 40, right? So he took
Mm-hmm.
significantly less. But let's face it, Kirk Cousins has done a great job for Minnesota the last couple of years. They've had screaming deals on him, and Kirk Cousins has never had a problem because he knows no matter whether he gets hurt or not, every single dollar on that contract is his. And I kind of wish we would have gone that route because
Yeah.
it means paying your quarterbacks a little bit cheaper, right? But it also means the player's happy because they can get every dollar no matter whether they get hurt or not, and their salary cap room for the teams. I just kind of wish like we'd gone that way. And I want to admit that I was really foolish on Twitter for thinking Lamar Jackson would go the Tom Brady route. I truly thought that's where he was going to go with how he acted around the team.
As fans, we always think that your all-star players are going to do that, but bottom line, they
Oh,
got to
I
take
wouldn't
care of their
expect Marcus
team.
Peters to do
So,
that. I wouldn't expect Marlon
right.
Humphrey to do that. I wouldn't expect Mark Andrews to do that, but I really thought Lamar was going to do that. But oh well, it happens.
Yeah.
All
It'd
right,
be like that.
so we're hitting the 15-minute mark. Let's get a little dread and dreary here. But before we do that, I want to talk about some things that I think about the Cardinals, and they're not that positive either. This is coming from more of a field perspective than a um, front office perspective, which is I know you're going to go with it. Um, I put money for the Chiefs to win. I put two bets on that game actually. I put for the Chiefs to win by 10 or more because I was so confident the Chiefs were going to win, and I won that bet. And I also put that the game would go over 54 points because I had the Chiefs winning 42-30. It was actually a little worse than that. It was like, what did the Chiefs score? Did they score 42, or was it more than that?
It was 44 to
Okay, yeah, they scored two more points than I thought they would, and the Cardinals scored 9 points less than I thought they would. Like, it was bad, right? And here's what I have to say about it. The main reason I picked the Chiefs and why I put money on them, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I won like $36 off of everybody's like misery on Sunday. No regrets on that one. But the secondary looked like burnt toast, like just from the get go, right? Outside of Byron Murphy, it
now,
looked like burnt
and
toast,
and
and
I'll
it's
get
kind
into that, and I'll explain why.
and it's kind of ironic that the picture I'm showing for this is Byron Murphy trying to defend Travis Kelsey, but Travis Kelsey's catching it here in the end zone. As you guys can see right here, for those who are watching the live feed on this or the live video on it. But Byron Murphy's probably the only thing I like about this secondary besides Buda Baker, right? And
Jalen Thompson, hello.
I mean,
Come
Jalen
on now.
Thompson's fine. He was fine. He's fine. I don't
He's
love him or hate him.
not this smart.
I know he's a franchise guy that like people love, but I don't love him or hate him. He's fine. I won't speak badly about him, but I won't like be like, yeah, let's go Jalen Thompson. That's
Completely
just
disagree.
that's just hey, it's just from an objective standpoint. That's not from a fan perspective. Come on now. I think he's a solid contributor. I would take Jalen Thompson on my team, right? But
Okay, continue.
it was hurt going in. They traded for a corner that was like injury prone or already hurt, one of the two. I don't remember which one it was. You can fill me in on that when
Kind of
you
both.
when you get there. But like the secondary didn't look great, and Marcus Golden was playing hurt. Or yes, yes he was.
He didn't even play. I think he only played about 50% of the snap.
Yeah, exactly. And so there wasn't much of a pass rush to begin with, and you can blame this on Vance Joseph, sure, but I think the biggest problem with this defense and why I was like all in on like, yeah, it's the Chiefs. I don't care. It's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Is because they were going to take advantage of a defense that doesn't have an NFL caliber
Anything.
roster in terms of starting player. Like I feel like a ton of the players on the Cardinals are good players that I would consider depth players and not starters. And that's my biggest issue with their defensive roster as a whole. Now it will get healthier in the secondary room, and I think it'll get better. I don't
Yeah,
know if
I
it'll
just don't know how
improve
much better.
enough for you to not say, yeah, the Cardinals need to score like 30 points a game. Like this might look like how the Saints were from 2012 to 2016. Drew Brees was like an MVP every year, but he never got voted for MVP because they went 7-9 3 years in a row. Like I'm not saying the Cardinals are going to go 7-10 or 8-9 or whatever, right? But this might look like that, where you have like a bottom 10 defense, and your top 10 offense has to outscore your own defense every game, and that's kind of my takeaway. Like I thought it would be bad. I didn't think it would be this bad. And now it's just week one. I don't want to like spell all doom and gloom for the Cardinals, right? But it was worse than I thought it would be, and I was already like telling Cardinals fans on Twitter, "Hey, you shouldn't get excited." Like I was being kind of a downer on Twitter, right? And even then, me being a downer did not foresee it being as bad as it was on Sunday. There were some positive, I should say. The Kyler Murray to Marquise Brown connection was there. That's cool, right? And there's a couple other things in there that would be fun. And I think once Rondale Moore and Zach Ertz get back in there, this will be a really fun offense. I think the NFL is not prepared for how good this offense can slash will be. I really think this offense will be a top five offense when it's all said and done, as long as they all stay healthy and they all come back and Hopkins is Hopkins. But that doesn't change the fact that I firmly believe they're going to, and this sounds stupid, but if you know the context, they will be trying to beat their own defense weekly. So that's my takeaway on the Cardinals right now. You can go on your rant for the next like 5 to 10 minutes, good sir.
So, the first thing I wanted to say is the one positive I really took out of this week was Kyler Murray. And in terms of the on field play, everything that happened on Sunday, people who were drawing the conclusion that any of that was Kyler Murray's fault, and I'm not saying Kyler Murray played like some stellar game, and I know a lot of his stats were put up in garbage time, but if you really watch that game, and
I don't think he did
now
that poorly, like at all.
he
Like
didn't,
there's a
right,
couple things he missed, but nothing out of the ordinary. He played just like Kyler Murray should play.
right, and I'm not, I know I shit on people for talking about PFF, but put this into perspective. John Harlow, the starting left guard, because Justin Pugh got a stinger late in the week, um, had a 0.0 pass block grade. Dude, Rodney Hudson looked like he still wanted to be retired. The offensive line was not helping him. And with the offensive line not helping him and automatically being down 14-0 to the Chiefs, you have to completely abandon the game plan. It's done. And defensively in the game, let's look at it this way. So you were saying how Patrick Mahomes and company torched the secondary, and yes, you're 100% right. But I think the secondary is not the issue. The secondary is banged up right now, and that's the problem. We had a freak injury with Antonio Hamilton where he burned himself with cooking oil. Like, come on. We had Jeff Gladney earlier in this offseason pass away tragically. Like, can this team catch a break right now, dude? It's absolutely insane. And then obviously we trade for Trayvon Mullen, who already had a toe injury, and he practiced today. So hopefully that it's a good sign because we could really use him. He's a really good man cover corner, which is exactly what we need right now.
I didn't really mention
So
this, but the pass rush doesn't look that hopeful either.
that's something I'm going to get into. So, so with Trayvon Mullen, if you get Antonio Hamilton back and Trayvon Mullen back, I'm really not that worried about the secondary. You got guys there. The thing is, there's guys on this defense that you're relying on that are not playing well, i.e., now I'm going to say Isaiah Simmons, because Isaiah Simmons played very poorly. I was very disappointed on Sunday, but I think they're asking him to do too much. You need to just put him an inside linebacker and take the green dot away. And there was a quote from Nick Vigil, and he said, "These were our first live snaps all together." Oh, so Cliff Kingsbury decided, let's get our defense's first live snaps with Isaiah Simmons getting the green dot for the very first time against the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. Huh? You know? So that's kind of where like I'm a little bit hopeful is this defense can get better simply because, oh my God, you just played Patrick Mahomes and he's probably the best quarterback in the league. And we're woefully unprepared by your coaching staff. And that's what I wanted to get into next is Cliff, whatever you did this offseason, whatever your plan to get this team prepared, failed miserably. I get not playing starters in the preseason. The Cardinals did that last year, and Kyler Murray threw 3 passes or 4 passes for like 2 yards in the preseason on 2 3-and-out drives, and they came out and lit the league on fire and started 7-0. This year, nobody played. Kyler got COVID. Marquise Brown got hurt. Kyler did not throw a single pass to Marquise Brown in training camp until a whole month in. So when I hear a player say, these were our first live reps together as a defense, that's alarming. That's a coach not preparing his team. And then when Cliff Kingsbury says in his press conference that the issue is practice habits, you run the practice. And you know me, I've tried to give Cliff the benefit of the doubt for a long, long time.
As have I. As have I.
But when I'm hearing him say that, and I'm hearing players say that, and I'm seeing a what should be star first-round pick, the 8th overall pick in Isaiah Simmons, you're giving him the green dot and throwing all of this on him to try and make him go out and face Patrick Mahomes and make him play 5 different positions. And I know they were undermanned, so we had to play out of position because Antonio Hamilton and Trayvon Mullen were hurt, so he had to play corner and nickel a lot more than he probably should have. So I think there's that can definitely be remedied on this defense, and it could get a whole lot better. I truly believe it could get a whole lot better because it can't get worse than Sunday. You know what I'm saying? So offensively, I think they're going to be fine. I think they had to beat the rust off of themselves. I think they did that towards the end of the game. They looked better offensively, and yeah, maybe they stopped trying. People say they don't want to make Vance Joseph the scapegoat, but he can't even use his 2 first-round picks at inside linebacker. And Zaven had a pretty good game if you really look at it. Zaven Collins had a really good game, all things considered. With that being said, people were saying, oh, he blitzed 56% of the time, and Patrick Mahomes obviously is killer against the blitz. But prior to that, on the first 2 drives, all he did was play this soft zone, and Patrick Mahomes picked that apart. You can't win. There's nothing you can do. The only time the Cardinals defense was getting a positive result, and Darren Urban cited this too in a Cardinals podcast just, I think, yesterday, that the only time the Cardinals defense was getting a positive result is when they went off that soft coverage and started blitzing. Yeah, they still got beat a lot too, but those were the plays they were occasionally making defensively. So I just don't think Vance Joseph, and I know he's handcuffed because Keim is only spending $73.8 million on this defense as a whole this year. And nearly 20% of that is tied up to J.J. Watt, who didn't even play. He didn't practice in training camp. And he's played 7 games as a Cardinal. That's a mistake. 20% of your defensive money tied up to one player, and it's already, you're spending nothing. It's dead last in the league. Time sat on his hands and did nothing to improve this defense all offseason, and we got exactly what we were expecting. You know what I'm saying? Bottom line, I think this offense is going to get a lot better. Defensively, I think it's a question mark. I think there's obviously a whole lot of room for improvement, and I believe there's a lot of potential for it to truly, really get better if they stay healthy, because I believe the starters, offensively and defensively, are great on this team. But there is no depth. So the second 1 or 2 guys goes down, it falls apart, and that's what happens, and that's why we keep falling. That's why we keep falling off every single year. They figure out Cliff, and Keim can't build a roster. That's it.
I think my biggest issue. I'm gonna go on a slight rant here for a second. I have a problem with.
And I'm done. I'm done on the Cardinals. That's kind of like my thing. That's what I wanted to say. Heading into this week, we'll see what they can do. Maybe it was just week 1. Titans got their ass kicked. Both teams last year in week 1 that won their respective conferences got their absolute fucking shit beat out of them week 1, right?
Yeah, Titans
and they went on to win their conferences.
Yeah.
Right? So let's see how it plays out. Obviously, it's week 1. I believe the offense will be a lot better. I believe the defense, if healthy, will be a lot better. This Cardinals team is got way too much talent to be a 4 or 5 win team.
So
I don't know if they could win more than 7 or 8 though if they don't get better.
So there's something you didn't mention, and I'm going to mention it here, just on the negativity train. But this isn't just a Cardinals issue. It's an Arizona ownership issue.
Yes.
Our owners here in Arizona, and I'm saying this as someone who is a big Suns fan, and I've actually got paid more attention to the Diamondbacks this year because I made an agreement with one of my coworkers. That he's a huge Mariners fan, right? So he's really big into baseball, but he's not into football. And I said, if you get into football this year, I'll get into baseball next year. I'll start paying attention to the end of the season. I know there's only 15 to 20 games left. And then there's the postseason, obviously, for baseball. But what better time to get into baseball than watch the World Series and the playoffs?
Right. That's how I got into it.
So I'm going to get more into baseball. I won't be a huge lover of it, I don't think, right? But I'll at least be knowledgeable of the Diamondbacks at least. I'll be a homer. I'm from here. I'll pick the Diamondbacks, right? I'm going to be that really weird person that cheers for every home team but the football team. Yeah. I'm going to become that person. But, it's very clear to me, even just through, my interactions on Twitter with Diamondbacks fans, not just you, but other people, right? And just, monitoring what people think. It's very clear ownership doesn't, value winning with the Diamondbacks. For a long time, it was clear that Sarver didn't value winning, right? And it almost feels like Michael Bidwell does not care about winning. And when I say winning, I mean the big one. The World Series.
Right.
The NBA championship. the Super Bowl.
They're fine with mediocrity.
Yeah, like, and to be fair to Sarver, I think what happened was they did what Arizona teams do. You pay an old veteran and hope it works out. And with Chris Paul and the Suns, it has worked out the last 2 years immensely, right? The young talent in Devin Booker and a couple others has worked well. Jay Crowder is an old veteran who came in who was fine. He wasn't great, but he was fine. And Chris
Talk
Paul
about
has
Kurt Warner and Carlson Palmer.
and Chris Paul has played like a Hall of Famer still, right? So it worked out, right? But I don't think if Chris Paul signing, like let's say the Chris Paul signing didn't work out, we would just go back to mediocrity. And that's kind of happened with the Cardinals. When their old veteran signings don't work, they just go back to mediocrity. I've seen
Yeah.
it so many times with the Cardinals. I've seen it so many
Yeah.
times watching the Suns, right? And apparently, that's what happens with the Diamondbacks too. And I don't get it. Why is Arizona ownership, and I know nothing about the Coyotes, so if you're like an NHL fan, I know nothing about hockey. I barely know the rules of hockey. Like, I cannot comment on hockey. That is not my position to comment on it. But our owner did lose to the city of Glendale for playing in Glendale, if that's anything to be said, and has to share an arena with ASU, and ASU has forbidden them from putting the logo on the rink. So if that tells you anything about ownership, I don't know what does.
Uh,
But like I said, I can't comment on hockey other than that. It's just speculation. It looks like the ownership isn't great for our Coyotes either. So like I just don't understand Arizona ownership. Arizona ownership for the most part sucks and is just willing to accept mediocrity. And I'm willing to say this. Fuck Robert Sarver. I hate that he was only suspended for a year.
yeah.
He should have been forced to sell the team or give majority to Larry Fitzgerald or someone who cares. Because it's clear Larry Fitzgerald cares. He's always
I
there.
would love
I
to
would
hear
love if
what
he owned
Larry
them.
thinks.
Oh, you'll never hear it.
I would.
You will never hear it.
Oh yeah. And it makes me really upset about how close Larry is with him. And I'm not trying to knock Larry's character. I don't think that has anything to do with it. But I wonder what interactions Larry's ever had with Sarver that were negative in that kind of way, or if Larry ever spoke out about that within that area. Because there's no way he didn't know.
Yeah, we'll never know, and you'll never hear about that. So, anyways, my whole point on this was to say that I don't think Bidwell cares as long as butts are in seats, and I've complained about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
I think it's ridiculous that I paid $92 a ticket for you and I to go see a Monday night game, a playoff-worthy game. I understand the Cardinals lost that game, but that was a good game. That was still a
Mhm.
good game, and it was worthy of prime time for
Mhm.
$92. And then I go and try to find a regular season ticket just to go watch the Cardinals again, just because I want to watch live football, and that like same spot's gonna cost like 200 something. And if I wanted to go up to like the nosebleeds are what I paid for that primetime game. I'm just like, that's crazy. Why are you charging me $100 for nosebleeds? Why are you
Do
charging
what
two?
I
Why are you charging almost $300 for the same seats that you and I paid for last year? Like, that's
do what I
insane.
do
And I
every time I
understand.
go to a game
Hmm.
and go on SeatGeek the week of the game. Like I've literally bought tickets 2 or 3 days before a game up in the nosebleeds for like $60 a piece, just because I was like, well, I kind of feel like going to the game this week, and the tickets get super cheap a couple days before on SeatGeek. So that's what I do
I'll have to look for
personally.
that. But I just remember I paid for it early last year, and that paid off because I remember telling you those same
Yeah,
seats that we paid for,
went way up.
they were like $200 the day before. But I think that's because the Cardinals were winning, and that's the unfortunate thing about Arizona ownership is I haven't gone to a Suns game in 2 years. I haven't gone to a Suns game since we sucked because when we sucked, it was $20 to go to a game. Now for those same
Mm-hmm.
seats, it's like 90, and I'm like, inflation has not been that much of an increase. Like, like I understand some people might say, well, inflation. Okay, inflation should make it like $50, 20 to 50 for that same Suns ticket, not 90. Robert Sarver increased the prices because they're winning. Bidwell increased the prices because they've been winning the last 2 years, and they haven't even been like winning. They've just had a winning record. They've been disappointing at the end of the last 2 seasons. Like it's just let's move on from Arizona ownership, dude. We could have a whole 2 hours about why Arizona ownership sucks across the board. And
Yeah.
and I said something about that. I'm sure you'd have your own like rant on the Diamondbacks if you really wanted to, because it sometimes seems like they don't really like they.
The season's already over, man. I stopped paying attention. Football's back, so
Well, it's not even that. It just seems like the Diamondbacks are always trading away their players right when something is going
yeah.
right.
Luckily, they got some guys coming up. So it looks like they could be pretty good here soon, but they need
Only
a bullpen.
only for them to be traded away in 2 years.
Yeah, we'll see about.
Well, I remember Goldschmidt wasn't supposed to be traded away. Peralta wasn't supposed to be traded away, but
I
you know.
knew Peralta was going to get traded. Goldie, he just didn't want to stay. I don't think.
Alrighty,
Anyway,
let's get to our passing from the couch segment here. What do you got for me? Give me all four of yours.
4. I thought it was 3.
First down. No, sorry. Check down. First down. Oh, yeah, Hail
I thought
Mary.
it was
Yeah,
just
yeah, you're right. It's three.
yeah 3. I was about to say I was like, come on now. I was like I didn't prepare that much.
Yeah, check down. First
All
down.
right,
Hail
so
Mary. Give it to me.
check down though. Let's talk about the Lions for a second, okay?
Well, our check
Are we
down might be
talking a
the
dark
same.
horse? Are we talking a dark horse? I'm not talking dark horse Super Bowl contender, but definitely a dark horse playoff team. Dude, they went toe to toe with the Eagles. And that Eagles defense, they're not scrubs, man, and they dropped 35 points on their head. Like, come on, dude. Both of their running backs having great games. DeAndre Swift and had like 144 yards, and then um, former Packer uh, Jamal Williams, yeah, I believe that's his name. He had another 2 touchdowns on the goal line. They got great receivers in Amon-Ra St. Brown. And they also have DJ Chark now, and I believe both of them scored touchdowns as well. So, and obviously they got TJ Hawkinson too. So they got plenty of weapons for Jared Goff, and they got a good offensive line in front of them. And you give, like we've seen with Jared Goff and Sean McVay, like you give him a good running game and a couple good weapons, and then pair it with a decent enough defense, like he'll win you some games. And now I know the defense kind of got lit up, but this Eagles offense is really good. Let's not pretend this Eagles team isn't supposed to be really good this year. Like people are calling them one of the. I wouldn't even call them a dark horse Super Bowl candidate. I believe they're one of the most talented, if not the most talented roster in the league. You know
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
picked them
saying?
to
So
win the
it's not.
division this year, and that was
They're
before
really
that was
good,
before
and
the Dak Prescott injury.
exactly, and that's exactly what I was about to get to as well. So, good call on that. So it's not like the Eagles are scrubs, but the Lions went toe to toe. They were extremely impressive, and I don't know if you watched any of Hard Knocks. I watched a little bit of it. This Lions team seems to have a really good connection, and I know they didn't win a lot of games last year, but I can tell you can tell when a coach is going to be a good coach for a team and have good continuity and just get it's going to be a good roster when the team is poor and they're still playing for them and the morale is still there. And that's what I kind of saw with the Lions last year. And it built into this year. And I know they lost this week, but I think if anybody said the final score of that game was going to be 38-35 and the Lions would have been actually very, very close to winning that game, I think anybody would have said there's no way. I'm picking. I'll say it this week. I'm picking them to win. And Vegas is actually favoring them for the first time since November of 2020. So almost 2 years. So props to the Lions. I'm actually really excited to continue to watch them for the rest of the year. I really like Dan Campbell, and I think they could be a special team. What's your check down?
Yeah, I'd like to mention that I don't think Jared Goff has played very poorly for them either. For me,
Mm-hmm.
as much as I memed Jared Goff, like he's been fine with the Lions, and he had no game on Sunday, so like they could win some games here. My check down was actually going to be about the Lions too, not so much about the contenders. I don't believe that. I think they'll just be a 6-win team. I wasn't buying the hype on them. Right, but I do believe they're going in like the right direction. 6 wins is still an
Mm-hmm.
improvement on what they were last year. Um, but my check down was going to be that the Lions are fun, and they're going to continue to be fun all
Mm-hmm.
year, right? Like there's something about a team like you were saying that wants to rally around their coach and what their coach wants to do, and I mean that's only going to take you so far, right? The scheme
Right.
still has to be there, execution still has to be there, and maybe they just don't have the right staffing pieces yet. And I'm not including Dan Campbell in that, I'm including like everybody else. But like this roster's got some talent, and I think it was out, and I think the Lions are outrun just because their name is the Lions, and they don't have a
Mm-hmm.
franchise quarterback that's flashy, which is odd to say about a guy who's been to the Super Bowl, but it's true. There's nothing like about Jared Goff where you're like, wow, Jared Goff, like he's just a quarterback, right? But he's also a quarterback that I don't think very often will lose the game for you. There are times where he will, but he's not going to win a game for you either. He's one of those QBs where if you surround him with some talent, put a good game plan around him, he'll win games. Look no further than when they went to the Super Bowl back in 2019, right? Like it's been proven you can do it. So you just got to be able to do it again. So yeah, they'll be fun. That's my check down. The Lions will be fun this year, and I can't wait to see where they go. Like I said, I expect 6-7 wins, but of those 10 to 11 losses, I don't expect those to be like blowout losses. I expect those to be like how
Mhm.
my game was against the Lions last year. I needed a fucking 66-yard field goal to beat them last year. You
Yeah,
know, so
and
like
my team lost to them. They beat the brakes off of us.
yeah, so yeah, it's I don't think it's a bad team or bad roster. I just think they have a couple things missing that, you know, they'll be competitive, but they won't be like a free win either, if that makes
Right.
sense. Yeah, yeah. All right, well, what's your first down completion?
So I wanted to talk about some marquee quarterbacks and kind of the a little bit of the quarterback play in general for this last week because let's be honest, week one, it looks like these teams that rested their quarterbacks and all their players uh, throughout preseason and training camp kind of paid the price for a little bit. These
You
quarterbacks look a little
disrespect my
rusty coming out the
QB
gate.
that way?
I'm
Come
not
on.
talking. Lamar's one of the good ones, but I wanted to highlight the big three,
All
and
right,
that's
cool, 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 cool.
right. And Jackson's up there too, but and I mean, hey, my quarterback played okay, I guess. But let's highlight the big three, and that's Herbert, Josh Allen, and Mahomes. They were lights out, and I think compared to anybody else in the league, and even Josh Allen still turned the ball over 3 times, so it kind of speaks to quarterback play in this week one. But um, Herbert, Allen, and Mahomes were all fantastic, and I think you can look at those three guys right there, and those will all three of them will be at the end of the year top three in MVP to see, and it'll be one of those three. That's like my first down.
You know,
What
so
you got anything
I'm
saying those
not
guys?
I'm not trying to sound like a hater here. Please don't, because I love Justin Herbert and I was singing his praises on my 60 seconds with Sanders, right? I would love to see him do it against not the Raiders. I would love to see him do it against a good team because Josh Allen can do it against a good
Are you
defense. I've
not?
seen
Are
it.
you saying the Raiders aren't good?
No, 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 no. Oh, hold on a second. Let me get to that in a second because I know where you're going with that, Mister. Trying to contradict me here. um, I don't like their secondary. First of all, like I don't really like the Raiders defense that much, honestly. I think their D line is okay, right, with Crosby and
Oh,
Jones,
okay.
but their
Yeah.
secondary I don't really like. Right, I never liked their secondary going into this year. What I love about the Raiders is their offense. But moving on from that part, I've seen Mahomes shred up a good defense, and I've seen Allen shred up a good defense. I've yet to see Herbert actually like execute on a good D because I remember there was all that hype going into the Baltimore versus Chargers game last year, and then Herbert looked like absolute garbage against our defense. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I expected. Herbert's really good. I love watching him. He has in my opinion, this is just my opinion. Cardinals fans will come at me for this one. Chiefs fans will come at me for this one. Bills fans will come at me for this one. Christ. Justin Herbert has the prettiest deep ball in my opinion. I love his deep
Mm,
ball. The little sidearm that he's got with it, and like I love that like Johnny Blitz I think is his name, right? The football blitz guy.
yeah.
He
I know
calls
what
them
you're talking
piss missiles, right? And that's the only way to like describe it. Like Justin Herbert has one of my favorite balls to watch. I watch Chargers highlights. I watched them almost every game last year just because I was petty and wanted to prove that I was right, that they were going to go 9-8, and they did. But I also like really love watching Justin Herbert, and I truly feel like he is better than this roster lets him be. Right? So I'm not disagreeing he won't be top three, but I really need to see him like shred a top defense. I need to see him go against the top defense and be like, yeah, I completed like 65% of my passes, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 300 yards. Like, I'm that guy. And I haven't seen it from him yet. At least not on like a personal level, right? And I'm not saying he can't do it. I firmly believe Justin Herbert can. He's probably going to have like that big jump that makes him look like he's top three, but I don't want to put him top three yet. If you want to argue he had a top three performance, 100%. He probably was the best performer this week, not going to lie, even over Josh Allen. Simply because he had 3 touchdowns,
Just
zero
for the best
interceptions, and
performance.
78% of his passes. Like Justin Herbert balled this weekend.
Patrick Mahomes still had the best performance.
Uh,
I know it was against a freshman team,
That's
but
what that's what I was saying in my head though. Like I feel like the level of
well, are the
talent.
Raiders that much better in your opinion? Because you were just shitting on their defense in the secondary too.
Well, you know what? I wasn't calling the Raiders secondary burnt toast like I was the Cardinals going into week 1. So take that for
So,
what you will. I like the line. Like I like Crosby and Jones next to each other. I think that's fine. The secondary just is unproven in Oakland. Not Oakland, Las Vegas. My goodness. I was just in Las Vegas
wow.
and I saw that stadium. How did I say Oakland? I don't know. Anyways, no, it's a good one. I like where you're going with it though. Right? I just wanted to be a
Mm-hmm.
contrarian on the Justin Herbert one. Who would I place at
Yeah,
3? That's probably what you should ask me is, well, who would you place at 3? And I'd sit there and be like,
Lamar.
no, Justin Herbert. Well, who would you place there if you don't want to place him there? The same guy. Cause like I
Yeah.
wouldn't I wouldn't put Tom Brady up there. Like he didn't have that kind of performance, right?
I
Lamar
mean,
even Lamar didn't have
he
that kind of
didn't have
performance.
he didn't have that kind of performance from the numbers, but you watch Tom Brady and he was pretty damn good in that game.
You know
Let's be
what?
honest.
You know what?
It'll translate to the rest of the season.
If they had actually scored the touchdowns they needed to, and they didn't, but if they had actually scored the touchdowns they need to, I actually would probably put Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was great between the
Yeah.
20s. This dude, that
Oh yeah.
offense
They moved the
rolled.
ball.
That
Yeah, they
offense
did.
rolled until they got to like inside the 10-yard line. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. If you ever want to fire a coach after one game, that was the time to do it.
Dude, that's
We'll we'll,
that's the
we'll get into
one.
that.
Oh
Are
my
you ready for
goodness.
your first down?
All right, my first down completion is. Let me pull up the image here. The NFC East is going to be a ton of fun, guys. Um, First of all, for all of us Cowboy haters out here,
Think so.
because I'm one of them, right? And I know like a couple of years ago I was like on the Cowboys, but that's just because I liked the roster. I'm still not a fan of Jerry Jones or the org, right? And now that like they don't look like they're gonna be good, I can go back to my hater ways. I don't have to be objective about them. Dak Prescott's not playing. I don't believe in Cooper Rush. Elliott and
Oh hell
Pollard didn't do
no.
anything special. Your only wide
Uh-huh.
receiver you're throwing to is CeeDee Lamb because Michael Gallup got hurt and you traded away Amari Cooper. Cowboys ain't doing shit this division, which means we can watch Washington, which had Carson Wentz throw 4 touchdowns on Sunday. The
And
Giants win
two
their game
picks.
because
He almost
Brian
lost the
da-
game.
because I don't care. Brian Dable has big balls. And Philadelphia almost lost their game too, 38-35, but
Yeah.
it don't matter because they're a talented roster. This whole division is going to be fun. I'm overreacting on
Yeah.
week 1. NFC East, baby. I'm not saying that like they're going to dominate or anything, right? That's not where I'm going with this. But I'm saying I think this division might be more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was
Yeah.
just the
Watch.
Eagles to run away with,
You're
right?
you're saying this, and we're gonna get another like 8 or 7 win division.
Yeah. But I mean, that still makes it interesting. That still makes it interesting
I
down the
mean, you're
road.
not wrong. You're not wrong, but it's certainly not fun to watch.
But what all I'm getting
I'm
at is
not.
like I don't think the
I agree
Eagles
with what you're saying.
performed as good as I thought they were gonna week 1. Like I'm glad I got the pick right, right? But
I
they
think
did.
offensively they did. Defensively, I was left some to be desired. But
Yes,
I mean, I think
exactly.
this Lions offense is pretty good too,
But the
though.
Giants came in and beat the former number 1 AFC seed, right? I know they don't have AJ
Mhm.
Brown, but like they came in and beat it. Dude, they leveled Derrick Henry. Did you see that highlight? They
Yeah.
leveled him. My goodness, right?
Uh,
And Dable was just like, "Fuck it, we're a losing organization. Let's go for it." And I'm just sitting there like, this is something you
mhm.
do when you're like 3-12 in the season. This is like zero. Like you still have hope. And he just went in, boom, 1-0, right? And even
Oh
though
yeah.
Carson Wentz, I believe, started out 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and then threw 2 interceptions. Right? He came right back at it, went on a game-winning drive, threw a fourth touchdown. Washington Commanders football, baby. Like, let's get it. I'm down for the NFC East to be fun this year. I'm okay if they keep being like this. I'm okay with it, man. I'm okay with it. Cowboys down, everybody else up. Let's ride.
Yeah.
That was such a hater
All right.
take, but whatever.
You ready for the Hail Mary?
Let's get to that Hail Mary.
I'm gonna be a hater.
Let's go.
I'm gonna be a huge hater right now. Rams ain't making the playoff.
That's it? That's the Hail Mary? Bro, that was my season 1 take. I know you didn't watch my season 1 video. I had them missing the
Really?
playoffs.
That's what you said?
Yeah, if I go
I must
back
have
to
missed
it.
that one.
No, so it was the video that I put out on I think I put it out on Saturday. Last Saturday.
Shit.
I went over what my season picks were, right? I had the Cardinals winning the division at 12-5. I had the Niners going 11-6,
Yeah.
and I had the
No,
Rams
I
I had the
Yeah.
Rams missing it at 10-7. They might not go 10-7, but I had them missing it at 10-7.
I don't think they're going to win that many games.
I mean, okay, there you go. That's fair.
Let let let's let me talk about it here. So obviously, the Super Bowl slump is a thing. I'm not saying it's too early to say that they're in one, but they obviously look really poor week one against elite talent. Um, I know you're not ready to chalk it up to this, and you want to see more, but I think that Stafford's elbow is worse off than we're being led on. Uh, I know you were saying I believe you were at band practice, so you weren't able to watch the game. But if you watch the entirety of that game, you would see that it was bothering Stafford. They weren't trying to push the ball downfield, and I know they were getting a lot of pressure on Stafford too. He was sacked like 6 times or 7 times. I don't remember the exact number, but he was under a lot of pressure. But they weren't even because what the Rams always did last year and for years and years, not even just last year, ever since Sean McVay came there, is run deep routes off of play action and bootlegs. And they didn't do any of that because I don't think Stafford's arm could do it accurately. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. And even the broadcasters were talking about the elbow in the game too. So I don't think it's something that's just a superficial thing. And I don't think we're getting the full story there.
For
Can
me,
we
it's
also?
questionable that Robinson was open wide like 4 or 5 times and wasn't thrown to. That's insane
I
to
don't.
me.
I don't. And that's another thing with Stafford is why is he only targeting Cooper Kupp? He can't be your entire offense. And you paid way too much money to Allen Robinson to only have him have 2 targets. He was getting separation. He's on my fantasy team. I was watching him very closely and getting pissed off every time I saw him open. And now there were definitely some routes like he was lazy on or whatever, but all fucking receivers do that. I mean, they're not going to run every route to 100%. Not going to happen. Whatever. But you would think even Sean McVay would draw some stuff up for Allen Robinson. I mean, 2 targets? He's supposed to be your number 2 receiver, and he's a good one. So I don't understand. I just don't think Matthew Stafford trusts him, so that's why he wasn't thrown to him. And if that's the case, then you have big problems on your hands. Um, the next thing I wanted to talk about was Jalen Ramsey. So can we look at his last
Burnt,
2 games?
not burnt
That being
toast,
the
dude. He was just
yeah,
blackened crumbs.
not
Blackened crumbs.
not or let's just look at his last 2 games. Look at the Super Bowl, and then look at this game. He looks awful. I know they're using. I don't know what term they use it. They're using him like as the star, blah blah blah, like the star backer or whatever. So they're putting him in the slot. They're using him as a nickel. They're putting him in the box. They've used him
Yeah,
a
they're
little
putting
at
him on Cooper
safety.
Kupp usually. Yeah, but Cooper
Put,
Kupp burned him.
dude. You mean Stephon Diggs?
Oh, my bad. Yes, I literally pictured Diggs and then I said a white guy's name. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Nah,
So,
Stephon Diggs burned him.
yeah, multiple times. And so, um, you just need to put Jalen Ramsey at corner, man. Stop trying to turn him into something he's not. Just put him at corner. I think that's something that these teams are trying to do is find this superstar
Darrell
hybrid
Revis type.
unicorn, right? Unicorn player that can play every single position on the defense. And they're trying to force Isaiah Simmons into that, and they tried to force Hassan Reddick into that, that being the Cardinals, and they're trying to force Jalen Ramsey into that, and it's not working. Just
Just
let
do what
them
they
play
did with
their
Richard
natural
Sherman.
position.
That's what Richard Sherman did. He locked down the left side of the field his entire career.
Exactly.
Like,
Yep.
and I know you gave him a lot of shit for it back then, right? But that's what like makes the
Right.
defense strong. Who
Mm-hmm.
cares? If you win games,
When
who
exactly
cares?
when one side of the field is completely taken away, I mean that's the corner's job, in my opinion, as a player or as a person who played corner when he did play football. It's not like I was at some super high level, but that was what I thought my job was. Let me stop this part of the field.
And the other thing too
So
about it, right, is like we saw a Super Bowl winner in the Packers, right? Aaron Rodgers be really scared to throw to Sherman because that was how much that field was locked down back then. Like, there's a reason
mhm,
that that defense got the name Legion of Boom. I mean, Dan Quinn knows how to do a defense, so there's that. But like, they put the players where they were supposed to go. That was their strengths, and they did that. And honestly, the Bills are doing that. They're doing that with like Tre'Davious White, Von Miller. I don't know where those 2 sacks came from, bro. I don't know where that came from.
Mm,
He did not look that good in Denver last year. He did not look that good in LA last year. But this man just came out firing for
yeah,
the
dude, Von
Bills.
Miller's back.
Oh
Von
my
Miller's
goodness,
back.
dude! If Von Miller's actually back, that's kind of hype. I really miss when Von Miller was like the premier
Dominant.
like guy to watch.
And they
I
gave him a 6-year deal, so he better be back.
he better be, dude. That was a lot of
So
money they gave him. A
a few
lot
more
of money.
little quick points on the Rams. Um, so not only has Jalen Ramsey been playing poorly, and I'm worried about their usage for him. There's not much left in that secondary either. After that, they got a couple good players, but a lot of their money tied up on that defense is up front. So I obviously this defense is still going to be dominant, but it can also get got, and I don't think the secondary, obviously, compared to a lot of secondaries around the league, it's a lot better. But I don't think it's all that it's cracked up to be. And offensively, if they're not going to be able to run the football, if they're going to consistently run the football like they did against the Bills, and if Cam Akers is really going to have 3 carries for 0 yards, and that's going to be what he's looking like this season, the Rams are doomed because Cooper Kupp can't do it all. And if they're not going to target and use Allen Robinson or any of their other weapons, they're in big trouble. So I'm concerned with the Rams outlook, and it's week 1, so we're gonna find out. But that's my take on the Rams. So what do you got for your Hail Mary?
Okay, my Hail Mary is literally on the on your own 5. You need 95 yards to go, and there's 1 second left in the game. That's this Hail Mary, all right? Your NFC Super Bowl representatives this year are the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk
I
Cousins
had a feeling you were
MVP,
gonna say
Justin
that.
Jefferson Offensive Player of the Year.
Whoa.
Book it. Book
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm
All
going a
right.
little bit overboard here, right? But I firmly believe, like, it's so weird. So I did not say this in my video because I did not want to admit this because I didn't believe it, right? But when I did my season picks, right, I did them all. I specifically said this in the video. I did them all in a vacuum, right? And when I say in a vacuum, I mean like there's no context. No, oh, they had a bye week the previous week, or they're playing a team off a bye week, or like, oh, I have them losing 3 in a row. They probably win one here, or whatever. I didn't do any of that, right? I just picked every single game 1-to-1. How would this game go? And that's how I had the Vikings at 14-3. And then I actually did it past that, which I didn't put in my video either, and I didn't post on Twitter because I didn't want to actually be held to this. I still don't want to be held to it now that I'm telling you and putting it out live. I had the Vikings and the Bills as the Super Bowl. And when I saw that, I'm like, ha, that's funny. That's not going to happen. You know what, man? If this Vikings team plays as well as it did this last week 1,
I mean, yeah,
all
they look pretty
season,
good.
bro, dude, this is a Super Bowl contender. Like literally,
Yeah.
I think my favorite quote over the weekend was this. Someone said this last week is proof that Mike Zimmer had a Ferrari and he was driving it like a Prius. Like that's the only way to do it, right? And if you look at last season's game, and Adam actually told me about this. For those of you who don't know who Adam is, it doesn't matter. He's a Vikings fan that Pardue and I know. He told me, he's like, I want you to look back at every single game, and I want you to look at the every end of every single game and tell me what happened. So I did my research and I went back and I'm like, you got your defense through the game like every time you guys lost. And he was like, exactly. Our offense is great. Our defense sucked and we needed Mike Zimmer out of there. And I was like, after he told me that, that's when I started believing that like maybe this defense is actually good and Mike Zimmer was the problem. And then they signed Zadarius Smith and I was like, this defense is really
Mhm.
good. This defense is really good. Like this offense was already really good. Then you brought in Kevin Connell to like really unleash the offense, and then you got rid of the guy who was causing problems on defense. I don't know, man. Like this, they look like they could be Super Bowl
I do
contenders
like
if
the
they
Vikings.
continue it.
I
Yes,
yeah,
yes. I mean,
I
I
do
picked
like
them to
them.
win their division, but and technically my my season picks in a vacuum had them going to the Super Bowl. I don't actually believe that, but if they continue the route they're going, yeah, by week 5 or week 6, I could start believing it. It didn't look fluky on week 1. They looked like they had it on lockdown. But Packers fans will scream and cry and say we always lose week 1, which is true. They've been terrible week 1 the last couple of years every year.
I don't think they're going to be as good this year.
We'll see what happens because we said that last year too. So
Now they don't have Devontae Adams.
that this is true. Hey, what do you mean? They got future Hall of Famer Alan Lazard. You heard it from Aaron Rodgers.
Did he actually say that?
Yeah, no. So you know how like Devontae Adams said, "Well, I went from Hall of Fame quarterback to Hall of Fame quarterback." Literally, like a couple days later in
Oh,
training camp, Rodgers said, "Well, I went from Hall of Fame
that's
receiver to Hall
funny.
of Fame receiver,"
That's fucking funny.
and he was
I
referring to
wonder,
Alan Lazard in that way.
was he fucking around though? I mean, was he really
I,
serious?
I mean, probably not, right? But like, I'm sure Rodgers was just responding to
Uh,
Adams in that way, not in like a
yeah,
bad way, just in
right.
like a
Right, as a joke, as
yeah,
like banter.
yeah, it's like banter, right? But
Yeah.
Alan Lazard didn't even play this last week, and like, if like Alan Lazard could become wide receiver one, like good for the Packers, right? They always seem to like never have issue at wide receiver, so we'll see what happens for them. I don't believe the Robert Tunyon hype like everybody is saying, but like again,
I don't either.
yeah, I don't believe that
Especially
hype.
coming off a bad injury like he did last year. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens though with the Packers. I think they'll be fine. It's Matt LaFleur. I trust Matt LaFleur. Um, the Vikings and Packers will probably be in a dogfight though for the division
Hmm.
at the end of the season. So, all right,
Yeah.
that's cool. I'm not gonna
Ready
like.
for pick?
I will like do my picks, but I won't talk so much about the matchups. I will
Yeah,
let you
agreed.
go off on the matchups if you want. So
I won't have a ton, so
let's get
go
our
let's
week
get
one
going.
picks going on. This Thursday is actually really fun. Dude, I'm so glad Amazon bought out Thursday Night Football, by the way, because we will get quality Thursday night games, though. If you haven't looked at the Thursday night schedule yet, it's quality. Like, there's
Yeah.
actually quality games on Thursday night now, and I know they did that because they want the Amazon deal to succeed. Um,
Hmm.
funny how that works out, right? You put some money on it, and they're like, "Oh shit, we need to actually make Thursday night football good." This Thursday, it's the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. What a great matchup! They're both 1-0.
Hmm.
They're both coming off. I mean, the Chiefs had a better game than the Chargers did, but like they're both coming off 1-0 games. Either team can win this one. The Chargers have always been known to upset the Chiefs on occasion, so this is an Arrowhead. What you got?
So obviously the Chiefs put on a fucking show on Sunday. I'm not even gonna get into it again, but obviously their offense is gonna take it off right where it was, and people were worried like, oh well, what's Patrick Mahomes gonna be without Tyreek Hill? He's gonna be just fine. And I know he was facing a freshman defense. You can give me that all you want, but Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and that offense is clicking. I really like the Chargers as well. They really built up that defense this year in the offseason. I really like where they're at in that aspect. Um, and Justin Herbert and company on offense, they can be a powerhouse. So I think both of these teams, obviously, they're both really good. People make the argument that there could be four AFC West playoff teams, and I just don't think that's feasible personally. But one of these teams isn't going to make it. Uh, but with that being said, I think I'm going to go Chiefs in this one. I just think the Chiefs look like the most well prepared team in the league coming into Week 1. And with when you look at the way Andy Reid ran their training camp, they it was like the old dog days of training camp. They like made them stay in like cabins or some shit like that at
I
a
know
resort.
exactly
And
where they stay. They stay at a college
yeah,
campus in St. Joseph,
yeah,
Missouri, because my aunt and uncle literally live a mile down from that campus.
there you go.
Like I was
So
visiting them one not this
mhm.
summer but last summer in 2021. I was visiting them in July, and like we were just like driving by the campus, and I was like looked over and I was like, "Is that the Kansas City Chiefs?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Yo, that's so cool." Yeah, so they stay in those dorms there.
Damn, that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
they travel there
So
and they stay there.
bottom line, I think the Chiefs are going to be too well prepared, and I don't know if the Chargers will have enough on defense to stop Mahomes. So I'm
So, so,
going Chiefs.
so funnily enough, I actually got the Chargers winning this because I got the Chiefs beating them in LA. And I have them going 1-1 with each other this season. I don't think one's going to 2-0 over the other. But the biggest one for this one is I think the Chargers had like a battle tested game week one, right? Something that they had to fight
Mm-hmm.
for. They played it close, right? And the Chiefs didn't have that. And sometimes one of the worst things that can happen to you is you have a blowout win where you didn't learn
Right.
anything from it, right? And I think the Chargers are going to be a little bit more prepared on how they want their team to work and their game plans tweaked compared to the Chiefs. Now, I could just totally be overselling how good the Chiefs are, right? That's totally possible. But I think in the divisional matchup, Thursday night football, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think the Chiefs are going to beat the Chargers in November, and the Chargers are going to beat them early here. That's what I got going.
Already.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, not too much reasoning. I'll get more into this stuff later. All right. One of the
Yeah,
first morning games of Sunday morning, we have the Miami Dolphins versus the Baltimore Ravens, and this one is in Baltimore. What you got?
you're not gonna like this.
I mean, you can pick whatever you want. Doesn't matter to me.
I'm gonna pick the Dolphins here solely for the fact that the
Mr.
Dolphins kind of
Tua
had your
haters
number.
picking the Dolphins. I love it.
I I don't hate Tua.
Oh,
I
let's
I
let's
mean
go
I
back to
don't
last year,
okay.
bro. Dude, this man
I
talks
don't
so much
love
shit on
Tua.
Tua.
I I don't love Tua, but he did really impress me on Sunday. I was very impressed with the way he played against the
Outside of the
Patriots.
first throw, obviously, because everybody memed the shit
Yeah,
out of that.
whatever. Yeah, whatever. But um, no, I do like Tua, and the Dolphins have had the Ravens number a bit, um,
That was just last year. We were
and it was
5-0 against them before that.
pretty big ass beating
It
last
was, it was,
year,
dude. That was a
huh?
massive beating. I can't even lie. That was
Yeah.
awful.
So, um, I think the Ravens. I think this is gonna be a really good game. I think it's gonna be a great matchup because I think the Dolphins are. I believe they're a deep run playoff contender. I like this team a lot. Chase Edmonds had a really good game too, and if he can stay healthy as a RB1 there, I think that's something the Dolphins offense have been missing is a true like playmaking running back, and I think they got that now in Chase Edmonds, and now you couple that with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. If Tua can get them the ball, man, that offense is going to be really hard to stop. And it's not that the Ravens defense can't stop it, but what I'm worried about with the Ravens is your running back health. And if I don't think if you guys, I think if you guys can't run the ball in this game effectively, if you're running the ball like you did against the Jets, I don't think you'll score enough points to stop Tyreek Hill and company um, defensively. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah,
think you need to be effective with the run game. Uh, in this one. I don't. I think he can get away without the Jets. I don't think he can do that with Miami.
no, I definitely get what you're saying. This is actually one of the two games in the morning that I'm looking forward to. The morning schedule's like Honestly, I think the afternoon schedule is a little more interesting. The morning schedule's but this is one of the two games that I'm interested in, not because it's my team, but because like it's Baltimore Miami. Like this is a heavy like playoff implication matchup, right? For like wild cards or like divisional seeds, right? Especially if you consider Miami someone who's going to be contending for that wild card, because I don't think they're going to beat out Buffalo for their division, but like who knows?
Yeah.
Um, as for like my pick here, I guess I'm making the homer pick, right? And it's mostly due to the fact that I think this defense is a lot better than people are going to be giving credit for. If you remember last year, I was shit talking the defense,
And you
right?
had a lot of injuries there
I,
too.
I mean,
So
there
to be
was
fair,
that, but it wasn't just that though. Right? There was just a lot going wrong between us blitzing like 70% of the times, which is what our former defense coordinator wanted to. Our defensive coordinator wanted to do, and he's now with the Giants, which is why Tony
yeah.
Jefferson's over there. I was so sad. But
And when you blitz the quarterbacks that are in the AFC too, they're gonna burn you.
all of our sacks came from not blitzing this last game, right? And I know it's just the Jets and Joe Flacco's a statue, but I was watching that game and I was like, this defense is so refreshing to watch, right? I'm not watching like 5 men at the
Wish I
line.
knew what that felt like.
Yeah, let me tell you, I wasn't watching 5 to 6 men at the line. I was watching a field full of like defensive players who like obviously they were like trying to confuse and create smoke and mirrors, but it was in such a different way. And I was sitting here like for a guy who came from Michigan. And I mean, the Michigan defense was killer while Mike McDonald was there. But for a guy who came from Michigan and this was his first NFL game as defensive coordinator, I was so happy with what I saw. And it helps that he's got players like Marlon Humphrey, Calais Campbell, like Justin Houston. Like he doesn't have scrubs he's working with, right? And that helps. But I loved what I saw, and I think it's going to be enough to confuse Tua. Because I think that's the big thing here. If Tua can like play well, right? Yeah, Miami probably has this game in the bag, right? Because they're probably just going to try the same thing they did last year. And if Baltimore's not ready for that, which I'll be honest, their offensive line is not ready for that. That was still an issue this last week. Miami will win this game, so I'll give that to you. But I'm relying on the defense here to keep this one closer. I have this being a low-scoring game, like a 17-13 style game or
Hmm.
2017. So But of course, in a
I hope
defensive game, of course I'm going to pick my team in a defensive game. But hey, if Tua figures this defense out, right, I'm with you, man. Miami can win this game. So next one is Cleveland Jets. I'll take this one over for a bit. I'm shocked Cleveland won, not because of the Baker Mayfield revenge factor. I talked about it in my picks last week. For those of you who heard it last week, um, I don't like this Cleveland roster. It's not what it was. Miles Garrett's
really.
good. Nick Chubb is good. Dude, name a wide receiver on this team, please. Name an offensive lineman
Mari
that you
Cooper.
know in this team. Okay,
They are good. They got a good offensive line.
okay. You got Cooper. Exactly. Exactly.
Dead silence.
And the Browns secondary isn't what it used to be either, right? So like the fact that they came out and they just like gave like the Panthers a game, like good for them. But it also took like a 64-yard field goal by a rookie, which by the
Yeah.
way, Cade York. Shout out to Cade York. I love good
Oh yeah.
kickers. I'm biased
Yeah.
because I have
I
Justin
I'm so
Tucker's my
glad
kicker, but that's
Anthony had him
awesome.
on his bench.
That's awesome that a
For
rookie
Nick Folk.
kicker booted a 64-yarder. I love that.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
that's pretty
Go Cade York, right? But if that's what it took to beat the Panthers roster, who, let's face it, is not great, and it's not like CMC
right.
lit it up. Like CMC had a pretty good fantasy outlet because I did that big trade in our
His
league with
his
Jonathan
like
Taylor for CMC.
per touch average is super low. He
Yeah,
had like 11 carries for 33 yards and like I think a
most of his damage
pretty
was done on passing. He had like 60
yeah.
receiving yards or something like that. But like it was just okay from the Panthers, right? And like I don't think you're gonna be okay, but they're also playing the Jets, so I have the Cleveland start. If Cleveland starting 2-0 because they're playing the Jets. I don't I don't think the Jets got beaten that badly last week because they were playing the Ravens. I just don't think the Jets are that good. Like I like
Yeah,
their roster,
and
but
Zach
it's young. It's young.
yeah.
I think that's the biggest problem is that
Yeah.
it's young and it needs time.
They're they're a young team and they have Joe Flacco. It's the Browns. I don't have much else to say about that one.
Alrighty. I mean, if we go by history, Joe Flacco's winning record against the Browns is pretty high, so you could give it
Yeah, well
that.
he's on the Jets.
Moving on, next one. This is a fun one. The Washington Command. I was about to say the Washington football team. The Washington Commanders versus the Detroit Lions. What do you got?
Oh man, this is gonna be a fun one. I think this one's gonna be a dogfight, dude. Um, you know how I feel about the Lions. I went on my whole rant on them earlier. I'm really high on them, and even Vegas is high on them. They're favoring them, like I said earlier, they're favoring them to win for the first time in nearly 2 years since November 2020. I'm going Lions in this one. I think that offense has the ability to be explosive with the weapons they have. I need to see more from that defense, but uh, I think the quarterback they're playing this week plays more into their defensive hand to be successful. I think they struggle against Jalen Hurts because of his, athletic ability. So I think they could have success against Carson Wentz. And I'm not big on Carson Wentz. Yeah, he threw 4 touchdowns last week, and yeah, he had the game-winning drive, the big touchdown pass to, win the game, whatever. He also still threw 2 picks and almost lost the game. So I'm gonna go Lions. Honestly, I like what they got going on there.
All right, I'm with you too. I like what they got going on here. It feels kind of weird that the Commanders like almost choked their game away against the Jaguars, right? I would like to see them like. I'm not trying to undermine Detroit. I would like to see the Commanders beat a team like Detroit for them to be like, all right, you beat the Jaguars and you beat the Lions to a 2-0 start. Like, you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, right? Like, let's see where you go from there, kind of deal, right? But if you lose this, it's like, you beat the Jaguars barely, and then you lost to the Lions.
Right.
So I'm putting it on the Lions though. It's mostly because I kind of favor a team that'll rally around Campbell over Ron Rivera, and who knows what's gonna happen with Carson Wentz. This man is like so 50-50. He's such a coin flip at this point,
Yeah.
right? Like we've
Yeah.
gone from the we've gone from the days in this show where like we were standing for him, and now you and I are both like, well, Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz. Next one, you're gonna think I'm weird for this one. It's the Indianapolis Colts versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I got the Jaguars winning this game because it's in Jacksonville, and the Colts can't win in Jacksonville. It hasn't happened in years. Don't
Yep.
know why. I don't know if it's a curse. I'm not a superstitious person, but I like to follow trends sometimes when it comes to sports. And maybe that's just the sports gambler in me. Usually you want to follow trends because that's how you make money.
It's
Yeah,
definitely a trend.
yeah.
Yeah.
Jaguars, dude. Yeah, the Colts
And
are
they look
0-1
good
win.
too.
Yeah, they didn't look terrible. So yeah, The Colts start 0-1-1. Yikes! But the Jaguars will be 1-1. Let's go, Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson, Travis Etienne. Yay! I'll get more into why later, like in
And
another
hey,
episode on Saturday. But
like
yeah.
I know I was hating on him, but Christian Kirk too. He lived up to that
Oh,
contract in that first game.
dude, Christian Kirk popped off.
They put him. See what happens when they consistently are able to put him in the slot.
Does it make you feel bad that like whenever like Cardinals players leave, they do well?
Yes, every time. I am 100% convinced we're not going to re-sign Isaiah Simmons and he's going to become an All-Pro on another because Vance Joseph doesn't know how to use him.
You
I'm
know what? You know
100%
what the
preparing
Ravens like to
myself for
do?
it.
They like to sign good defensive players cheap when they weren't good elsewhere.
Yeah.
Dude, you'd be so.
Listen,
I would rub it in your face so much.
oh, I would cry, dude. Anyway, I'm also going Jags in this one, and it not just because the whole trend of the Colts losing in Jacksonville. I do not like Matt Ryan. I don't know why people are thinking this is going to be the savior of the Colts. And hey,
He was
Colts,
okay.
are you nah? Colts, are you just going to be in the forever purgatory stage of going and getting that 1 year old ass flyer of a quarterback that'll win you, 7 to 10 games, keep you in contention. You might make the playoffs every once in a while. You'll be drafting middle of the pack most years and missing out on the top tier quarterbacks. Is that just where you want to be? Or are you going to commit to the tank or commit to a trade to go acquire a guy because you ruined your guy, that being Carson Wentz, you bastards?
You mean Andrew
Anyway.
Luck? I think you meant to say Andrew Luck, not Carson
Oh,
Wentz.
Jesus.
I
Yeah.
knew you
And
meant to say Andrew
see,
Luck.
yes, I meant to say Andrew Luck. But that kind of plays to my point is like that's another garbage quarterback that you had for a year and didn't get you anything. The year before that it was Philip Rivers, and Philip Rivers had a really good season that year, but you're keeping yourself stuck in this perpetual loop of average old ass quarterback, and I don't think that's going to win you a lot of games. And like Maurice Jones-Drew said, "Oh yeah, the Colts and the Rams are going to be in the Super Bowl this year." I'm like, the Colts might win 7 games this year.
I think they'll
So
win more than that. I still think they'll win the
I don't know.
division. Who, dude?
I'm not
Do
high.
you do you
I'm
have
not
the
high on the
Jaguars
Colts.
winning that division? Do you have the Texans winning that division? Do you have the Titans, who are much worse this year, winning the division? I don't. I
I think
don't.
the division is icky.
This division is
I will
very
say
icky.
that.
And and in
Yeah,
and in
I think that
and in icky
I
division,
think it's
I'll
hard to
pick.
predict.
And in an icky division, I'll pick the talented team, which is the Colts. But that's just me.
That's
I
fair.
I do think the Jaguars can make some noise though. Like if you really hate Matt Ryan, right? Then I could see the Jaguars as a pick. I don't know how I feel about the Texans or Titans yet. They just something doesn't feel right about the
Davis
Texans or
Mills is good,
Titans.
man.
All right,
Davis is good.
Buccaneers, New Orleans. You know it was cool. The New Orleans story is cool. They won their game. They beat the
Yeah.
Falcons in a comeback victory because the Falcons like to choke. Woohoo. Um, this is still the Tom Brady Buccaneers, and their defense just gave the smackdown on Sunday night. So I'm not doubting the Buccaneers until others. I understand historically, New Orleans kicks Tampa Bay's ass. This happens a lot. Drew Brees is also not playing, and they didn't really get their ass handed to them last year either. I think it was they went 1-1 last year. So Tampa Bay. I mean, New Orleans can win this game obviously, but yeah, I'm going Tampa Bay. I'm going the favorite pick here. I'm lame.
Yeah. The one thing I have to say about this game is Tampa Bay's defense, and I'm picking Tampa Bay.
You know,
Not that the Saints can't overcome that, because I do believe the Saints have some talent on offense, and I believe Jameis Winston is better than he's given credit for, and Michael Thomas is back. They got good weapons with Jarvis Landry and Alvin Kamara and a new guy, Chris Olave. But with all that being said, I think that Buccaneers defense is absolutely insane. So I'm going Bucks.
I'm picking the Bucks, but I'm probably gonna be rooting for the Saints. I want Jameis Winston to work out. I've been wanting him to
I
work
do
out
too.
for a while, dude.
Yeah.
And you know what? I clipped that interview. Like everybody like showed the clip interview. Like, can you tell us about the pain? He's like, oh, it was pain, right? No, I specifically clipped where it was just him talking. I'm definitely using that as a meme format at some point. That video is funny as hell. Just his face. Oh, it was pain all over, but we overcame it. Moving on, we
He's
got
funny, dude. He's funny.
here's a fun one: the Giants and the Panthers. This is a nice week 2 matchup because this matchup will suck in like week 15 or 16, but for week 2 it's not bad. Giants and Panthers. I'll go first here. You know, it feels like the Giants got lucky. and it feels like the Panthers got unlucky. But I really don't view like Cleveland as that great a competition, right? Like Cleveland still got some players, and I have them starting 2-0, right? Like, and Kevin Stefanski's still their coach, so like Cleveland will be fine. Like they'll probably win 8 or 9 games this year. I don't know about the Giants or Carolina. I don't know if it's just like week one hype because they were like ballsy and went for it. Because like we have a different narrative if like they don't get that right. It's a completely different narrative. Like we talk about how Dable's a dumbass for not going to overtime. So like I don't want to like over like hype that week one that much. This one's kind of a coin flip to me. I definitely feel like Carolina has a little bit more talent than the Giants do though. So because of that, I'm going to go
Mhm.
towards Carolina. This one's kind of a coin flip though, dude.
Yeah, this one's a coin flip to me. I think I'm gonna go for the sake of being a contrarian in our picks this week and me wanting to get one up on you. I'm gonna go Giants.
Sounds good to me, man. uh,
um,
what were we gonna
I
say?
think it'll be a close game. I like the matchup a lot actually. I believe I do think the Panthers do have a bit more talent, but I do believe the teams are evenly matched. Um, so I think it'll be a good game. But I'm gonna go.
Alrighty. And then the second game that I'm really looking forward to is actually Pittsburgh versus New England. You have two quarterbacks who like were not fantastic last week, but their defenses could definitely do something if done right. So in this Pittsburgh versus New England like matchup, I definitely have Pittsburgh winning it. I think not JJ Watt, TJ Watt being missing is a problem because the Steelers defense stops dominating as soon as like TJ Watt left. I mean, they still won the game. They still held their own, right? But like, the feel of the game changed once T.J. Watt left.
Yeah.
So, despite the fact I'm picking them to beat New England here, I think this game is a lot closer than like a lot of people would give it credit for.
Yeah, I'm also going Steelers here because I think that defense. You saw what they did to, um, the AFC game last year with that defense. It was really impressive. I like what they did. I think they can shut down that pass offense. There's not a lot that scares me about it right now, and I think Mac Jones maybe has a little bit of rust heading into the season. And Mac Jones is kind of stinky this year, or week one as well. Um, or Mitchell Trubisky. Uh, I don't know.
They're
Okay.
both they're both
Anyway,
they're both playing this
yeah,
weekend,
they were.
so
Yeah, they were both kind of ass in week one. So,
I'll give Trubisky it a little bit more. I kind of like the offense that the Steelers employed. There's a lot of
yeah.
smoke and mirrors. Like
Eh,
they took
another
advantage
thing
of
that
Mitch Trubisky's mobility, right?
now
And
that I think
that's
about it
really
though too,
beneficial for
Najee
Najee
Harris.
Harris.
Well, that's what I was about to mention too. I think Najee Harris got
He's
hurt
cleared.
at the end of that
He's
game
been
too.
cleared.
Okay,
He's
okay.
been cleared to play on Sunday.
But even then, like I'm not super impressed with Najee Harris. I don't think he's all that backed up to be. But
What? You don't like Najee
he had like
Harris?
3.8 yards a carry last year.
Yeah, but when you feed the guy the ball so many times, who cares? I
I
mean,
guess. But
it's almost 4 yards a carry. Like,
bottom line, I'm gonna go Steelers just because I think the defense gives them the edge.
cool. I don't think we really need to talk about this next game. I understand like we're on like the LA doubt train a little bit, but like they're not losing to Atlanta, right? Like, I don't think they lose. I don't think they lose this game to Atlanta. I'm pretty sure LA wins this.
Let me see that elbow.
Let me see that elbow.
But yeah, I'm gonna go Rams.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm going Rams here too. Cool. You might have something to comment on this. You might actually go on a bit of a rant about this one. But we got the NFC West division leader Seahawks playing against the 49ers. What you got?
Dude, I know the Niners were in the sloppy, icky, ugly rain in Chicago, and there was standing water on the field. There's a reason the 49ers kept Jimmy G around. What's the over under on how many weeks do you think until he's the starter? Give me your thoughts, honestly.
I actually had this conversation with someone in private, right? I said if the Niners start 1-2, right, and they go 1-2 despite Trey Lance, not because of Trey Lance, but despite Trey Lance, right? They put in Jimmy G around week 4, week 5. This is
Damn.
a Super Bowl roster, dude. It's still a Super
Yeah.
Bowl roster. This
Yeah.
team went to the NFC Championship last year. They were a cries of penalties away from like being the NFC representatives again last year, right? And the NFC representative. Well, I'm not saying the Niners beat the Bengals last year. They could though, right?
Hmm.
This is still a Super Bowl roster, dude. This roster is
Yeah.
salivatingly
Oh
good.
yeah. No, It's
You
so
can't
good,
you
and
can't
it's
have
just
an
a shame that quarterback room is such a question.
you can't have your quarterback be the reason that the rest of your veterans are sitting here like, yo, dude, hey, Kyle, we want to win a Super Bowl here. Put in Jimmy G. Like, you can't have
Yeah,
that. So, we'll see what happens. I would like to give Trey Lance the benefit of the doubt, right? I always am
that's what
like,
I'm saying
when it
too.
comes to quarterback, like, dude, I think Josh Allen will always be the one we want to point at. Josh Allen was awful in his first 2 years.
Yeah.
He was bad, really bad. And then his third year was so great, and we're like, let's see it again. And then he was better last year, and we're like,
Yeah.
wow, he's really good. And then literally week one, it's like, I think Josh Allen is better this year. Like, it's insane, right? And,
Hmm.
and I'm not predicting Trey Lance to do that, but because of that and because of other things we've seen, Derek Carr got better later in his career. Ryan Tannehill got better later in his career. Kirk Cousins got better later in his career. These aren't like Josh Allen levels of quarterbacks, right? But these are all guys that are starting quarterbacks and have been starting quarterbacks and have like won games, significant games. I I'd like to give Trey Lance the benefit of the doubt. It just doesn't look good right now. Speaking of like quarterbacks who like kind of like do better later on, Geno Smith had an impressive first half. The
Yeah.
second half didn't look good, but the first half was impressive. I did like his quote at the end that he
Hmm.
said they wrote me off and I never wrote back. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
good. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if I like believe in Geno Smith, but
No, I don't.
it was
He's been
fun.
solid.
It
He's
was
been
fun.
solid in Seattle.
Yeah, it was fun. So I actually think Seattle could win this game. I feel like you should pick San Francisco because they have the better roster, but I did that against the Bears and I got burned for it. 19-10 actually. I got burned for it.
But it was also I'm also kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt with the weather because here's where
That
I'm at
should
with
have
this.
benefited him though. Like it benefited Justin Fields. Justin
Yeah,
Fields
that's
used it to his advantage. Trey Lance should have ran all over that defense, and he didn't.
nah. I don't think it would have benefited him. I don't think he's. I think he's a good runner. I don't
Bro,
think
he's a
he's as
running
impressive
QB.
of.
He's like
He's
Justin
too
Fields. He's a
big.
running QB.
Yes, yes, but he is way too big to be able to be bumbling around on that surface in that game.
Hmm.
And I think also in that game, I think Kyle Shanahan was protecting Trey Lance from himself and trying not to make Lance lose the game in that weather. So that's where I'm at with Trey Lance. I'm not big on Trey Lance, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, and that's my reasoning. You know what I'm saying?
So who do you think wins this game?
So I am going to 49ers because I am going to say, if as long as it's clean weather, I believe the talent is way too overpowering on the 49ers roster for them to drop this against Seattle. Um, the Seahawks won on a fluke. Let's be honest. The Broncos got it inside the 1 yard line.
They ran all over Seattle's
Back to back.
defense.
Yes, back to back drives. They got inside the 1 yard line with two different running backs fumbled. You score two touchdowns right there. The game's not close.
It's 30-17.
Seattle.
Like I was
Yeah.
telling someone, I'm like, this is like literally two yards away from being 30-17. Like
Seattle was shut out in the second half. And you know what? Props to the Seattle defense. They made the plays that they needed to win the game, but the two fumbles are fluky. And even then, what the Broncos did at the end of the game, me and my coworker were screaming to call a timeout. Have you seen the clip of Peyton Manning?
he's just sitting there like, let's call timeout.
So
Let's talk
funny.
about this one.
Yep,
He's just sitting
yep.
there.
Let's
He
talk about this one.
keeps doing the hand motion the whole time.
Yeah, he's
You
like,
can
I
tell
think
he's
I
getting
talked
so
about this one.
frustrated. You know
I
what's
saw a
funny
video.
is if he
Yeah.
was that quarterback, because I know he's probably sitting there thinking like, this was my team. Like Peyton Manning has some love for Denver, right? Because he did a lot. He
Oh
had a
yeah.
lot of success there.
He won a
He was
Super Bowl there.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was probably sitting there thinking like, dude, Russell Wilson, like just call the timeout. Like don't do what your coach says.
Yeah.
I bet you Peyton Manning would have done that. He would have looked at Hackett, called that
One
timeout, and
hundred
said,
percent.
we need to talk about this, bro. Like even if
Yeah,
Hackett would have
you're a
yelled
rookie
at him,
head coach. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
like Peyton would have looked at him and be like, bro, we need to talk about this. And even if Hackett was mad, Manning would have been like, I don't care,
Mhm.
dude. We need to talk about 4th and 5.
Yeah. Honestly, and then for
uh,
Brandon McManus to come out and tweet like, "Yeah, that's where I wanted that to be." And shut up, dude. You've made one career kick above 60 yards, and you're not in Denver. You're not at Mile High. You're at sea level in Seattle. It's the dumbest fucking call I've ever seen.
so
So I'm bottom line. I'm going 49ers here
I'll go
simply because
49ers with you.
yeah,
Like I want to pick Seattle here, but like I
I
don't
do
like.
too. But
I'm not
yeah,
sure. I'm not sure how like valid Monday was, especially like I said, like Denver rolled through them
right.
till they got to the end zone. Like they shut them out. They were just like this defense didn't look that. It looked young, right? Because they have a lot of young
It's
players on this team.
look. I'm an expert in four and 5 win teams. I've seen plenty of them in my Cardinals time. That win that Seattle did was one of those fluky wins that you get in those 4 and 5 and 6 win years. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're
It's
saying.
it's one of those wins where Patrick Peterson returns a 99-yard touchdown in punt return touchdown in overtime. You know, it's like the fluky stuff like that. So that's why I'm not big on Seattle. They're not going to be a
Let's
good team.
let's
So,
move on to Denver because we were just talking about that. They play Houston. Houston tied with Indianapolis. Denver obviously
mm-hmm.
lost. Like there's something wrong there. Like we don't know what it was, but like
Bad coaching.
Russell Wilson was getting the ball to Cortland
Yeah,
Sutton. He was getting the ball to Judy. Like this, like it look. I think Russell Wilson will be just fine in Denver. It looked good. I
yeah.
the dude Nathaniel Hack. It was as I was saying on Sunday, like did a hack of a job. Right. I hope they learn from it. Dude, the fact that I think it was this morning or yesterday morning, he was like, upon reflection, I think we should have gone for it on 4th and 5. I'm like, no
Yeah, you
fucking
think?
shit, dude. Like,
I
uh,
play Madden and I would have known to call a timeout there.
they should beat Denver. No, sorry, Denver should beat Houston here.
Yeah.
That's what I
I,
got.
I, I really do like Davis Mills, man. Let's keep an eye on Davis Mills this year because I think he's actually a pretty talented quarterback, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Broncos are going to get it right. They move the ball way too well. Do not do that against this team.
Also, maybe this is just my lack of faith, but the next game is still in Texas, and it's Cincinnati versus Dallas. I'll chalk up Mike Tomlin to just knowing what his division opponent was like, and Mike Tomlin being a goated coach for those turnovers. And I'm gonna say that it was a fluke in Cincinnati. Cincinnati will have a bounce back win here. I'm not saying they'll look like a powerhouse, but they'll have a bounce back win against Dallas. That's what I got.
Let's keep in mind that this Bengals team last year, even though they went to the Super Bowl, was only a 10-win team.
Yes, they got hot. They
Let's
were one of those teams where they were
right.
on fire at the end and nobody wanted to play them.
It, it was like for Cardinal fans, it was like the 2008 run. We finished 9-7, and then
Just
Larry
got
and
hot.
Kurt Warner and the defense got super hot right at the end. But even 2 weeks prior to the playoffs starting, we went on the road
Didn't you get
to New
blown out?
England. It was 47-7
Yeah.
weeks before the playoffs, and then the very next week we beat, I believe it was Seattle. I believe we beat Seattle to clinch the playoffs and the division. So with that being said, um, yeah, the Bengals are going to bounce back in this one for sure. They're a good team. They're not a great team. I was very, very, very impressed with their defense, but the Bengals' issues from last year continued this year, and that being their offensive line. And you spent all that
And
money
some
on it, and what
questionable
Burrow
play
still got
calling.
sacked. Yeah, and questionable play calling for sure, but I believe that'll truly get better. Um, Jamar Chase was still a freak. Joe Burrow, I mean, had all the turnovers, but he still had his team in position to win at the end. And I think that's a credit, obviously, to the defense and bad offense by the Steelers. But with that being said, I think you're facing the backup Cooper Rush. No reason for the Bengals to drop this one, right?
I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, so I would like to preface this next one by saying that I have this team starting. I had this team starting 3-2. In having this team start 3-2, I also have this team starting 0-2. So don't call me a hater here, but I got the Raiders beating the Cardinals next week. But
Yeah.
I also have them winning against the Rams and then against the Panthers, and then I actually have them beating the Eagles the following week. I have them going on a
Panthers
three
are on
week.
this.
I have them going on a 3 game win streak here after this. But like, man, I didn't like what I saw this last weekend. I don't think anybody did, right? And it's not like the Raiders looked that much better, but like, I'm gonna go back to my tweet that I said earlier. Your secondary, who may have Traven Mullen back, right? Like they need to get healthy, and I did say it would get better once they got healthy. But like, it
Well,
won't.
I
They won't.
just got some bad news on my phone is that Jalen Thompson didn't practice today, so that's something to
Yikes.
keep an eye on.
So here's the thing about the secondary, right? You're playing against Devontae
You're
Adams,
fucked.
Darren Waller, Hunter Renfro. Like I just that
Yeah,
just doesn't look good, man. Like it's
yeah.
just the reality of it. And I think you could get an offensive shootout, right? And I said that your offense will have to outscore your defense, and that can happen. This Cardinals offense has the firepower for it, especially against a weaker Raiders defense. I'm still gonna pick them to win in Las Vegas though, but like a 30-28 style game.
Yeah. So I'm there with you as well. I really want to be positive. I really really do. I just don't think this defense. I think this defense needs more time to gel because, like I said earlier, their first live snaps were last week. They need more time. Um. So, with that being said, um, I don't think the Cardinals have enough defensively to be able to stop Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, and Josh Jacobs. I have Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs in fantasy, and man, they're going to eat for me this weekend, and I'm kind of excited for it. I'm excited to see their point totals. Um, with that being said, I hope the offense continue to knock off the rust, and I really, really hope we can get a little bit more healthy on the offensive line because I'm terrified what might happen to Kyler with Chandler, a motivated Chandler Jones and Max Crosby
Here they go from the
across from each other. And now they'll be facing our two better offensive linemen in Kelvin Beachum and DJ Humphries, so that's good at least. At least it won't be interior pressure like it was from Chris Jones. And it'll give Kyler more of an opportunity to stay into the pocket, which I believe he was a lot better about last week. And hopefully he'll step up more in the pocket and read the field a little bit better, and he'll have the time to do that. But we'll see if we get the 5-sack Chandler Jones. You know what I'm saying? This might be his 5-sack game this week. But yeah, I'm gonna go Raiders. And I love the optimism. I appreciate it. If there's 3-game win streak after this, but man, I'm terrified of the Panthers. Everybody in that streak because they own us.
Yeah, I can see that. So give me your upset of the week because I feel like that's what you're gonna do here. Sunday Night Football, Chicago Bears versus Green Bay in Green Bay. I'm waiting for you to tell me that you think the Bears are winning this game.
No, I tweeted that yesterday and I made some Packers fan mad. And he was calling me an idiot and shit. And I was like, I'm literally bullshitting, man. I was like, I'm fucking trolling. I was like, yeah. I was like, people on Twitter take shit too seriously. Like, I remember there was another guy yesterday. He tweeted, it was like, do people really think they're gonna get Kyle fired for changing their profile pics? Like, no, dude,
No, but it's
we
kind of
don't.
funny.
It's a joke. It's literally a joke. You're talking about a group of Cardinal fans on Twitter that are known for trolling
Didn't you all
and
do a
being funny.
Squirrels one at one point too?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just like a thing for a little bit. Like we just kind of fuck around. We have fun. Like it's not meant to be taken seriously. Um, but I want the Bears to win so bad because I want to believe in Justin Fields and I want to believe in this team. But I
I
do
like
have the
Justin Fields
Packers.
in week
I have the
one.
Packers battle.
I had to watch him locally. He was my local game. I know your local game was Steelers Bengals. What was your other one? Or do you not know?
Uh, um, I think yeah, it was 49ers. It was 49ers and Bears.
Okay, cool. So I had the same local games, right? But I watched a bit of the Bears 49ers one just to see how like Trey Lance Justin Fields was okay. Like he was great, but like
Mm-hmm.
he was kind of fun to watch. And in my mind I was like, man, if Justin Fields can like do that on a weekly basis, like they'll be in games. They won't
Have
like
you seen that
win a
iconic
ton,
photo of
but they'll win games.
him and the team sliding into the end zone?
I mean, you posted the one sliding in the end zone. The one that I like more is where he immediately got up from it and he was flexing with water all
Yeah.
around him. That was the one I'm like, that's cool. Like that's a great snapshot.
I hope the photographer got a bonus for those ones, dude.
Yeah, those are some cool shots. But like, I got the Packers winning this one.
Yeah,
Packers usually
same.
have a slow week one. I don't think like it's that disastrous in Green Bay yet. Division games are weird, right? But also, in the words of Aaron Rodgers, he owns the Bears and he's owned them his whole fucking life. So I don't think that's gonna change.
Yeah,
Those are Aaron Rodgers' words, word for word, not mine. So yeah, that's where
we
I'm
can
at on
dream
that
though,
one.
right?
Yeah, we could dream, right? Alrighty. Monday Night Football. We got a doubleheader. I wish we would do this more often, by the way. I think Monday Night doubleheaders are cool. We got the
I
Tennessee.
like it, but I wish they wouldn't start the second game like an hour and a half after the first one, because then they have to
Yeah,
like
because
flip
they
back
kind
and
of like
forth.
interfere. Yeah. Anyways,
And I
'cause
get it because it gets really late on the Eastern time, but it kind of sucks.
this one's gonna be Tennessee and Buffalo. Unfortunately, Tennessee is not the number one seed that they were last year. Buffalo's gonna smack Tennessee so hard in the face. So hard in the face. And what's funny is I said this last year, and I think Tennessee actually upset Buffalo. I think Derrick Henry had like a huge game or whatever. Don't matter. Don't matter. There's no AJ Brown here. The wide receiver core is a mess in Tennessee. Buffalo's gonna smack them. I don't think this game will be close.
Yeah, the only scenario in which I see the Titans winning this game is if Derrick Henry does have a bounce back because he had an okay game last week. He had about like 80, close to 90 yards, something like that. A fumble, no touchdowns. He wasn't super impactful by any means. But I think if he can come out in this game and the Titans can control the football and kind of keep the ball away from Josh Allen and company, and if they can maybe force him into a couple turnovers like the Rams did and take advantage of those turnovers, then yeah, obviously I think the Titans do have the ability to win this game. And just like we saw last year too, let's not build a church on week one. Mike Vrabel is an extremely good coach. I believe he has still enough talent on this team to be a good playoff team, if not a potential division winner. I'm not ready to just give up and write off the Titans. Um, but with that being said, I think things got to go right for them on Monday to beat the Bills. So I'm going to go Bills in this one because I think the Bills are kind of reaching Chiefs territory where I'm going to keep picking them until they tell me not to.
Until you have the Chiefs Bills game and you're sitting there like, oh, who do I pick?
Yeah, basically.
Because that game will come up soon. You know what? I want to get on this small rant for a second since you're here. Do you know how ridiculous I think it is that the Ravens Buffalo game isn't in prime time? Like, what the heck, man?
So
Why?
which game?
The Ravens Buffalo game in a few weeks is not in prime time.
Oh yeah.
They had Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen on the bill, and they were like, meh, Monday morning game, or sorry, Sunday morning game. All right. Sorry, there's a couple games on the schedule where like I was like, that's a primetime game, and it wasn't like just my games. There's just a couple of them like that's a primetime game, and like they didn't put it as a primetime game. I'm like, that's insane. What are you doing? And then you have like primetime games like Broncos Seattle. Like, come on,
Hey, it
man.
turned out to be a banger, kind
Yeah,
of.
it did, but like on paper, So, anyways,
Yeah,
the
no,
other
you
Monday
know.
night game, I think this one will be a banger. This one should be a lot of fun too. This is actually another like playoff, like wild card seeding, maybe divisional seeding implication here. It's Minnesota Vikings versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll let you take this one away.
Dude, this is gonna be a fun game. I'm so excited to watch this game. I work this weekend, like I work nights on Friday through Sunday this weekend, so I won't get a whole lot of football on Sunday, but that's why I'm kind of glad we get the doubleheader on Monday. But with that being said, this game's gonna be so fun. Like you said, the Vikings defense has improved. Their offense has the ability to be a powerhouse with Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, probably maybe the best wide receiver in the league right now. Um, so I think it's gonna be fun to watch. I think we're in for another shootout. If excuse me if the Eagles win in a shootout with the Lions, um, this this game can definitely get into a shootout. I think if the Vikings defense isn't able to take advantage of their strengths, they could get into shootout territory, and I think that'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm down with you. Who do you got winning at the end of it though?
Oh yeah, I should probably say that, huh?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Honestly, I really like what the Eagles got. I think overall, I think the talent is just a little bit on their side, maybe more on the defensive side too. And I know the Vikings had a much better defensive performance in Week 1 than the Eagles, but I don't think that's gonna be the consistent thing. I have the Eagles in a close one, probably like 24.
So I think I gotta back up my shit talk with the Vikings, and I gotta pick the Vikings here. Um, Now, man, I just didn't expect their performance to be as good as it was week one. I expected them to have like a
That was
Vikings
great.
game where they get ahead early, right? And then they like lose their lead, but they never lost their lead. They kept the Packers down to 7 points. Like, damn. I don't think that'll happen here. Like, there's Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, and there's the running back by committee that's pretty decent, and the roster on paper defensively is good. I don't know what happened. Like, I watched the highlights, but that doesn't tell me everything for the Eagles Lions
Hmm.
game. So, you know, we'll see what happens. The Eagles definitely can win this game. Like, it's in Philadelphia on
Hmm.
a Monday night. Like, yeah, it'll be a ruckus crowd, I'm sure. But I'm picking Minnesota on this one. So that is
All
what
right.
we got for the end of week 2. Is there anything you want to say before you leave us for a few weeks?
Uh, go Cardinals.
Go Cardinals, just like so weekly. Alrighty, well that's
We're
it from
hoping for the best later.
well that's it from us. You can follow him on Twitter, HT_Pardue. You can follow me on Twitter, HT_J Sanders. And that's pretty much what we got going for you. So I hope your team wins, unless of course they're playing mine or they're playing the Cardinals over here. We'll see you guys next time.